2000 से लेके आज तक रिलायंस ने केवल मनमानी और दादागिरी करने के सिवा कुछ नहीं किया। भारत सरकार इनके सामने बिल्कुल बेबस नजर आती है। हम प्रधानमंत्री जी से पूछना चाहते हैं कि जब एनटीपीसी को रिलायंस ने $2.25 के ऊपर गैस देने का प्रॉमिस किया था और जब रिलायंस वाले अपनी बात से 2 साल बाद मुकर गए, तब प्रधानमंत्री ने अटॉर्नी जनरल की ओपिनियन क्यों नहीं ली थी?
It's absolutely clear that all this is being done because these crony capitalists are greasing the palms of those who are taking such decisions. And it is obvious from the fact that those ministers who resist this, like Mr. Jaipal Reddy, like Mr. Manishankar Iyer, are unceremoniously shifted out of those portfolios which are of interest to these people.
Hello and welcome to We Mean Business. Arvind Kejriwal continues to make waves. In fact, this time around, those ripples have stretched well beyond political circles, hitting the center and the heart of corporate India. In his latest set of allegations, and that's what they are, allegations, Arvind Kejriwal is claiming undue influence from Reliance Industries and Mukesh Ambani on the government. He's also raising specific issues around the KG D6 basin, production issues there, and the pricing concerns. But let me first bring you some of the key points that have been made by Arvind Kejriwal today. He says, and these are allegations once again, that RIL is blackmailing the government by reducing gas production from its KG D6 block. He says that Jaipal Reddy was removed from the oil ministry at RIL's behest because he refused to play ball with RIL and its goals. He goes on to talk about the fact that if RIL's proposal to increase the gas price from KG D6 is actually approved, there will be a 45,000 crore windfall gain for RIL. On the other hand, the country stands to lose as power tariffs will be raised sharply if gas prices are indeed raised. He then goes beyond and makes more far-sweeping statements. Says that the Congress is in Mukesh Ambani's pocket. It seems that the country is being run by Mukesh Ambani, not the Prime Minister, and that crony capitalism is running the country. Those are some of the allegations made by Arvind Kejriwal. But first, hear out some of his own words as he brought this issue to the fore, an issue that has been on the background for a while, for many years now, but Arvind Kejriwal seeming to take it on head on.
2000 से लेके आज तक रिलायंस ने केवल मनमानी और दादागिरी करने के सिवा कुछ नहीं किया। 2004 में रिलायंस ने कहा कि हम लोग $2.25 प्रति यूनिट के हिसाब से 17 साल के लिए गैस देंगे। पिछले 2000 से लेके आज तक का इतिहास यह दिखाता है कि इन्होंने दादागिरी करने के सिवा कुछ नहीं किया और भारत सरकार इनके सामने बिल्कुल बेबस नजर आती है। तो 2004 में इन्होंने कहा कि हम 17 साल तक $2.25 प्रति यूनिट के हिसाब से एनटीपीसी को गैस सप्लाई करेंगे, लेकिन इनकी मंशा ही खराब थी। 17 साल तो होना दूर था, 2 साल के अंदर ही 2007 में इन्होंने कहा नहीं हम नहीं देते $2.25 में, हमें तो $4.25 चाहिए। अब एक जिम्मेदार सरकार की क्या जिम्मेदारी थी? एक जिम्मेदार सरकार को उनको कोर्ट में घसीटना चाहिए था या उनका कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कैंसिल कर देना चाहिए था।
You know, it's important to try and ascertain what the facts on some of these issues are. These are complex issues. These have been dating back many, many years. So before we get to our panelists, I want to bring our team of reporters in. They've been covering this issue for a while. Rajkumar Sahu covers the oil sector. Vijay Iyer has been tracking Reliance Industries and also some of the cases that they're fighting, including the one against NTPC. Raj, to you first. We're sticking to facts here. Let's try and, for our viewers, put out the background on the gas pricing issue and where the government stands on it, and also on the production side, where things stand.
Well, without going into the merit of it, as in who is right, who is wrong, just let's see what has actually happened. Arvind Kejriwal and India Against Corruption has actually alleged that the Prime Minister has favored Mukesh Ambani and Reliance Industries to earn undue benefits from KG-D6 by making the contract or the production sharing contract on their benefit. But at the same time, it is noteworthy that this contract we are talking about is a mother contract which is signed by all the oil and gas companies whoever wins a block under a new exploration and licensing policy. And this was not framed by Manmohan Singh and his government, that is UPA government. It was actually framed by the NDA government, and it was the block itself was allocated by the BJP government under the NDA regime. That is one. Second is, of course, when we talk about the pricing, it was decided by the empowered group of ministers, and it was vetted and actually approved rather by the Supreme Court. It said the executive has the power of doing so, and the pricing we are talking about, and it was done by a democratic method of discovering the price, and EGOM rather actually went with what Reliance Industries proposed. Third is, of course, when Arvind Kejriwal actually says that India imports gas from Oman at $1. So that is factually incorrect, because there is no import whatsoever from Oman, and there is an import from Qatar, which is the single largest supplier to India of about 830 MMSCMD of gas. And that to cost around $14 per unit. And fourth is, of course, when we talk about the other aspect of benefiting or revising the capex in KG-D6, that was also done because the inflation actually went up, the cost actually went up, and all those considerations. So there are a lot of factual inaccuracies in the allegations made by Arvind Kejriwal, but at the same time he has got his own research and study done. So let's see what happens. But yes, it has again tried to rather dented the image of the government and also Reliance Industries.
Raj, those are the facts as far as the gas pricing issue and the production issue is concerned. On the NTPC issue, my colleague Vijay Iyer is here giving us the background to that case. Vijay.
Absolutely, Ira. We need to understand the whole genesis of this particular case of the rate is concerned came out from the NTPC case. NTPC called for an international bid in 2004 when RIL participated and said they would supply gas to NTPC for its expansion at a rate of $2.34 per MMBTU for a period of 17 years. That is where the whole origination of the amount happened as far as the KG-D6 pricing goes. Subsequently, due to some technical issues of unlimited liability clause is where the deal could not be crystallized and the final agreements could not be signed, and the matter went to Bombay High Court, where RIL challenged the clause of NTPC in the agreement. But having said that, while all this was happening is when the EGOM was formed, and EGOM arrived at this price of $4.2 per MMBTU when it comes to selling gas from KG-D6. Now RIL again went back on its own commitment and said, now we can't sell you gas at $2.34 per MMBTU because there's an EGOM approved price of $4.2. Having said that, that particular case is yet to see the light of the day, and it's been pending in Bombay High Court almost for 6 to 7 years now, with the case not coming to any conclusion. So this is where the whole issue is, because NTPC was also of the opinion and had taken opinion from SG, where it has been said it's up to the government to take a call on the bids called by NTPC, and if government permits, NTPC as a PSU can be treated differently and not on the same plank as the gas supply would happen from KG-D6. So in that sense, NTPC case is sub judice, but yes, the whole genesis of this pricing, we need to understand, came from that NTPC bid called in 2004, and RIL no doubt has gone back on that commitment, although claiming that it's up to the EGOM price and decided price, and hence they could not do anything because government itself has said that they could not sell price below that price. And of course Supreme Court verdict clearly saying that is the price decided by the government. No one can sell any gas from KG-D6 below that particular price.
All right, let me now welcome in our panelists. We've got S.C. Tripathi, former Oil Secretary, Sunil Jain, Opinion Editor at the Financial Express is with us, and Hemant Sahai, Managing Partner at HSA Advocates is with us as well. Very good evening to all of you, and thanks so much for joining us. Actually, I want to start with Sunil Jain. Sunil, as you probably listened in at least to a part, if not all, of Arvind Kejriwal's allegations, what was the first thought that came to your mind? What came to my mind was that these are issues that have been talked about in the past. It didn't seem like he had anything new to offer in terms of proof around them, though.
Well, Ira, these are issues which have been discussed in the past, there is no doubt. These are issues where I think Kejriwal and Prashant Bhushan have mixed up some of the facts, but these are also issues where the government has a lot to be blamed for. So, I think it's a mix of fact and fiction, which is a very clever way of doing things. I'd do the same if I was in his place. But just very quickly, I think the government needs credit for the fact that this is a government which has actually stopped $1.2 billion of payments to RIL. That's what the arbitration is about. So the government has been proactive in this case. They've actually moved long before Kejriwal made his allegations. I think but where the government needs to move is that they need to move on the second CAG audit. As we know, the first CAG audit was only for 06 and 07. So they need to move on the second CAG audit. I think the fact that the first CAG audit had given instructions or sort of directions to the government, because the CAG had said, these are some contracts that I'm a bit worried about. I don't know enough about these contracts, so will the Ministry of Oil please examine them? So the Ministry of Oil has done nothing there. So I think that's this big negative. But on the issue of Jaipal Reddy, this comes up time and again. He's been made into this big hero, that he was removed because Reliance wanted him to, he was inconvenient. Now, I don't know, maybe he was moved because Reliance wanted him, maybe he wasn't, we don't know. But I think a couple of points have to be said very clearly about Jaipal Reddy. When the CAG said, please examine these contracts, under Jaipal Reddy, the oil ministry did not move on them. So I don't think we should, idolize him and lionize him that much. Point number two, when Jaipal Reddy said on the record, he said that I don't believe Reliance has actually got a problem in the reservoir. I don't believe them, etc., etc. The least that he could have done as a responsible minister of the government was to have the reservoir, examined by people to figure out whether Reliance genuinely had a problem or whether they were just, making it up because they didn't like the price. So I think, too much is being made of Jaipal Reddy, but Prashant Bhushan had some valid points. The capital cost went up. The problem is that there are two problems here. One, Prashant Bhushan imagines that there is never any capital cost increase in public sector project. That is completely incorrect here. So if public sector project costs go double or treble in some cases and there's a huge delay, so I think we need to keep that in mind when we automatically assume that RIL has gold plated. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't, I don't know. But I'm just saying we can't axiomatically say that the capital cost going up is a sign of Reliance gold plating.
No, absolutely. Mr. Tripathi, come in on this. How would you see it? Sunil is talking about some of the facts, some of the crucial issues. I guess at the base of it, the production issue, the pricing issue. All of these date way back. They've been brought up in court in various contexts, in various cases. Let me pick up on the production issue in particular. How do you see that? How do you buy into RIL's argument? Do you think the government could have done more to try and see what the issue with production is? And on that point of the CAG audit, for instance, recent reports suggesting that they're willing to do away with the performance part of the CAG audit. What does that say to you, if anything?
First, a caveat. Number one, that I retired on 31st December 2005. So whatever has happened after 1st January 2006, I am not privy to it. I only speak on basis of the information which is in public domain. Number two, I do not comment about the companies because that is not fair. As far as I know, Reliance Industries is an efficient and an influential company. So are there some more. And if an undue influence is there, that may be weakness of the department and ministry. So on that basis, now let me give you the sequence of events. You see, when the NELP program was devised and started in 1999, then up to end of 2005, beginning of 2006, we understood that the production sharing meant that the operator share is operator share and government share is government share. Operator share means that he has the freedom to market and price. And that is the way we went around the globe having investor conferences and invited bids for first 5 NELP rounds. Now, sometime in 2006 or 7, I do not know because I was not there, government changed its stand and government said no. The operator share is also for government to decide at what price and to whom to sell. And government persuaded the Supreme Court to agree to this, and Supreme Court gave the judgment. Now the Supreme Court judgment, the consequences are very serious. The Supreme Court said that until the natural resource reaches the end consumer, it continues to be government property. Well, if this is applied to bauxite, iron ore, coal and others, I don't know, there might be chaos. But at least in petroleum, where the judgment came, it has begun to be applied. Now if that is applied, then the production sharing goes out of the window. It becomes a service contract where The operator is only a contractor and he produces for the government. If that is the position as it appears from Supreme Court judgment, then the government decides the cost, government decides at what price to sell and whom to sell, and the CAG also enters it. With that, you know, the government can say that we can sell at $4 or $2 or $3, this is my prerogative.
Absolutely.
So therefore, the seeds of the dispute, seeds of the problem lie in the judgment of the Supreme Court, which has become binding now.
That's an important point. Let me bring Hemant Sahai in there. Hemant Sahai, you know, the fact that there is a Supreme Court judgment on this, the fact that they have actually withheld the powers of the government in some ways would probably, you know, you could look at it both ways. It may strengthen what Kejriwal is saying, that there's undue influence on the government from the RIL side, but on the other hand, you know, there is a certain sanctity to it. I mean, you can't sort of, you know, question the Supreme Court's judgment as it has been delivered.
You know, the way I look at it, sometimes perception becomes stronger than reality. We've all heard at various times that, you know, there is a significant amount of clout that the Reliance Group you know, has on the government departments, specifically the oil ministry. But this is all speculative. Now, I think as a politician, what Mr. Kejriwal is doing is clouding some facts with some amount of reality, perhaps. One or two things that I would, you know, agree with Mr. Kejriwal. Now, the reduction in the production of the KG Basin, I'm sure there is a technical reason for that, and has the DGH done its job well enough? Secondly, on the cost escalation at the production stage, while the PSCs, of course, provide a fairly rigid and robust framework for ascertaining the costs, but at some level they are, you know, subject to manipulation. So the allegation of gold plating on the cost, and you know, the first amount of oil that comes in as cost oil going towards cost to recovery of cost which could have otherwise been avoided, I think they require some amount of, I would say, further investigation. Now, coming to the Supreme Court judgment, yes, I agree with you that you know, the Supreme Court judgment in one swoop has effectively made all natural assets the property of the government and reduced the role of the contractors to merely service providers. Even at that time, I remember I had commented and I said that this goes against the very grain of the PSCs. The framework of the PSCs was very different. The operators are not service providers to the government. Now, I think this is just coming around full circle, and I think you know, somebody will need to review that status. The operator owns the oil that comes out of the ground to the extent of his share. And yes, as a matter of policy, the government has said you're free to market it yourself. But once the government decides that they will determine the price, then I think everybody else is bound by that policy.
Sunil, let me just come back to you. I know you have to leave, so I just want to get one thought from you on what you see the real sort of business implications of something like this. You know, the debates will continue. I want to understand if this is going to put pressure on the government to examine this entire production issue far more objectively, bring in perhaps external agency. What does it do to the pricing negotiations? And, you know, unlike other companies which have gotten embroiled in these political issues like, say, an IRB, a Jain Irrigation, we're talking about a very large, widely held company. How do you see this play out even from an investor standpoint?
Well, see, clearly I think investors are going to be worried. There's no two ways about it. But I think we need to focus on two or three things. One is that you know, the government, as I said, has withheld $1.2 billion of payments from RIL. So we have to. So if in case people feel that there's going to be some hanky-panky, I think what we've got to see now is that does the Petroleum Ministry suddenly decide to water down this clause? You know, so this is going to go in for arbitration. So I think we need to keep our eyes and ears sort of open and focused on that what exactly is the government going to do on that. I think the second issue is that there's going to be a CAG audit of the years in which the bulk of the capital expenditure took place. So I think we need to see what comes out of that. So, you know, frankly speaking, the good thing about the RIL case is that it's a public limited company. Every piece of paper out there is in the open. Whatever the CAG does, no matter what anybody might think, has to be presented to Parliament. It has to be given to the PAC. So I frankly think that the ability of a government, assuming that the government wants to hide something, the ability of the government to do anything wrong will be circumscribed. One last point is that, you know, there is a feeling now, you know, with Jayapal Reddy is going away, that the government is suddenly going to try and slime in and increase the gas price that Reliance can get. I think it's very clear that gas price is going to be prevalent till 2014. If the government does anything to it before that, I think it will be in trouble, so I don't think it will do it. Secondly, let's keep in mind that every $1 increase in gas prices means that power prices go up by about 50-60 paisa. It means that the fertilizer subsidy goes up by about 3,500 crore rupees. So you can bet there will be a lot of people in the government who will be making sure that it isn't going to be a one-way ride, for Reliance. So I think we need to just, we need to keep these things in mind. I don't know whether the government is helping Reliance or not, but there are a lot of people out there waiting to check these things. So I don't think we should just lose faith so easily and jump to conclusions the way Mr. Kejriwal and Prashant Bhushan have. They said, for example, we don't know how Reliance got the bid. And they say, they're alleging that Ranjan Bhattacharya was pally with Mukesh Ambani, therefore, the BJP gave it. There was an international bid. Those things are out there in the open. Even somebody like Mr. Kejriwal can see it. So it's an international bid. How do we just suddenly start throwing mud and say, I don't know how they gave it, there's some hanky-panky there? That's complete nonsense.
Mr. Tripathi, I want to talk about a couple of issues with you. Similar question to what I was asking Sunil. The implications and how sort of the government would now take this entire story with RIL forward. But also, there was a thought thrown out by Mr. Kejriwal that you should go ahead and actually cancel the contract. Surely that's not something where the government can even possibly think of going.
You see, operator's role has become very little after the Supreme Court judgment. He is a service provider. He is a service contractor. So he can have issues only on the cost and cost recovery. So whatever is the cost, since it is a government now, the owner is the government of all assets. So government has to see that the operator's cost is reasonable, and operator has to convince the government about its cost. So that part government will have to see, and naturally because the cost impinges on the government role, therefore, and the prices, therefore the CNAG audit will also have to come there. And apart from the cost, the government has to see that the operator gets a reasonable return. Besides that, I think the role of operator has already been limited by Supreme Court judgment. Therefore, whatever government does beyond that is not in the domain now of the operator, unless the Supreme Court judgment is revised.
Hemant, would you broadly agree with that? And also, if I just throw in a sort of another additional question on the legal side, anything you heard from Mr. Kejriwal today is, something that would stand in a court of law, or are these all sort of allegations that are being thrown out there, but beyond that, probably very little?
The two parts. One is, of course, clearly what Mr. Tripathi is saying. The consequence of the Supreme Court judgment is indeed that the operator is a service provider. But there is one aspect even in that, because the compensation to the service provider is being done in the form of production share. So the costing of the production of the operator's share of the oil is also going to be important, because that will determine over what horizon he'll be able to recover his investment, and consequently his return on investment will also get impacted. So I think it's not as if the contractor is being paid in cash. He is being paid in kind, and therefore the pricing of the crude oil is going to be an important factor even in the new framework. Secondly, yes, as far as Mr. Kejriwal's allegations are concerned, unless he can come up with hard evidence, I doubt if he's going to stand scrutiny before any court of law. But I think, Mr. Kejriwal's court is very different. He's not fighting in a court of law. He's before the people. So therefore, he may be, able to get away with some of these allegations even without very solid substantiation in fact.
No, that's valid. Mr. Tripathi, you had a point to make, and while you make that point, I want to bring out one last thought here, sir. I'm coming to you. I'm coming to you, sir, but I want to just throw in one additional question.
In cash now.
Sorry?
Because he doesn't have the operator is not owner of the operator's share of the gas or crude oil. So when the government decides the price and whom to sell, operator effectively gets only cash. So if he is not getting full recovery, government can subsidize him or extend the period of the contract.
Okay, got that point, sir. I did want to get your thought on one other thing. We were hoping to have a representative from the power side just to understand that, this is an issue which has national implications, but I'll get your thoughts on it in any case. The fact that there has been falling production at KG-D6, the fact that there is talk about price rises, steep price rises, that's something that impacts multiple sectors, specifically power, for instance. How does one balance the bigger national objectives, the bigger national good, with the, perhaps benefit of an operator?
Well, the government went about NELP inviting foreign investment, private investment with these incentives that operator share will be operator share, and that is how you invite investment. but government changed the stance in 2006-7 and then persuaded Supreme Court to agree to its stand. So government is in a bind. Therefore, if the operator is not producing anything more, he has no incentive, the government has to go and buy gas from outside, which will be much more expensive. So these things, you know, whatever stand government takes, there are consequences. Government cannot on ad hoc basis keep changing its stand and without realizing the consequences.
Right, I'm going to have to leave it at that. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Remember, this will play out on the markets as well. Interesting to see if there'll be any reaction at all on Reliance Industries. But nevertheless, the debate will continue. Hemant Sahai, Mr. Tripathi, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your initial thoughts as this story plays out. Arvind Kejriwal going beyond political circles, hitting at the heart of corporate India, as I started by saying. That's all the time we have on We Mean Business. Thanks so much.